Do you want to be ahead of the game for the latest in arts, music, cuisine, and entertainment across the Middle East's most dynamic capital cities? Al Monitor is proud to launch our City Pulse newsletters, focused exclusively on local news, starting in Riyadh, Dubai, Istanbul, and Doha. Each week, our on-the-ground writers in these cities cover the latest cultural happenings and trends, so you have everything you need to know for the best local experiences. To subscribe for free, go to almonitor.com, that's al-monitor.com, and sign up on our newsletter page.
Welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief. I'm Adam Lucente. Hamas said on Wednesday they are studying a ceasefire proposal on the Gaza war, following U.S. President Donald Trump saying on Tuesday evening that Israel had agreed to conditions on a, quote, final proposal for a 60-day cessation of hostilities. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu doubled down on his vow to defeat Hamas on Wednesday, saying, quote, there will be no more Hamas, and that Israel will free all the hostages. Palestinian media reported more than a dozen Gazans were killed by Israeli shelling and airstrikes on Wednesday, while the Israeli military said they killed 2 Hamas members responsible for last week's deadly ambush that left 7 Israeli soldiers dead. So where does that leave us? The Trump administration previously made a ceasefire push in March that did not yield an agreement. Now, Israel is fresh off its war with Iran, and pressure is again building to get a deal done. Some in Netanyahu's cabinet do not want a deal, and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir is reportedly looking to thwart any agreement with Hamas. My guest this episode is Al Monitor's Israel Pulse chief, Rina Bassist. Rina takes us through the details of the latest ceasefire proposal, as well as the chances Netanyahu will agree to it, whether an agreement would threaten to bring down his government, and how the recent conflict with Iran is affecting Israel's calculus vis-a-vis Hamas. Hope you enjoy. Rina, welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief.
Thank you, Adam. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Rina, what do we know about the terms of this ceasefire proposal that is being mentioned by President Trump?
So the ceasefire proposal that is now being discussed is a proposal that was set on the table just a few days ago by the Qatari mediators. But it resembles a lot the proposal of U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff, which was actually put on the table already beginning of March. We're talking about a ceasefire of 60 days, so 2 months, during which 10 living hostages would be released, and then a number also of bodies of hostages, apparently between 16 and 18, and that obviously in exchange for the release of a few hundreds of, we don't have the exact number, a few hundreds of Palestinian prisoners that are in Israeli jails, expansion of the humanitarian aid, and a partial retreat of the Israeli army. Now, what is different between the Witkoff proposal and the Qatari proposal is, first of all, the number of the living hostages that would be released. We are still talking about 10 living hostages, but the current proposal sees the release on the first day of 8 of them, and the 2 others would be released only on the 50th day. So that's a significant change in the proposals. For the other details, for the other topics, we don't have yet neither the number of the Palestinians that are going to be released, neither any other details, but similar to the Witkoff proposal, this period of 60 days should be also the period where the sides discuss, whether directly or indirectly, the second phase of the ceasefire, which is, of course, going towards ending the war, a full retreat of the Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip.
And Rina, what does Israel want in a ceasefire agreement with Hamas? And do you think the Netanyahu government is serious about getting a deal done at this time?
You know, since October 7, Prime Minister Netanyahu kept talking about 2 objectives of the war. One objective was to eliminate the military and the governing capabilities of Hamas, and the second objective was the release of the hostages. But over these 19 months, many in Israel felt that these two objectives were not the same for Prime Minister Netanyahu, that he had a preference, first of all, for ending the capabilities of Hamas, that was more important for him than releasing the hostages. But in the last few days, we see some very slight change in tone on the part of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. and perhaps understanding that even within the right-wing camp, there are voices now calling, saying that given the situation of the hostages, the information that we have that they are being tortured, given the fact also that this month of June was one of the deadliest months, if you talk about Israeli soldiers being killed, and of course the terrible humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Given all that, there are a lot of voices in Israel, and including some within the right-wing camp, that are calling for a ceasefire now. So let's hope that the wind is changing and that the Netanyahu government is really serious this time about reaching an agreement.
Rina, how has the end of the war with Iran affected Israel's thinking when it comes to Gaza?
I think that there are two responses to that, because the first response is the obvious one that Hamas is weaker now. Hamas is in a different position than it was before the attacks, the Israel attack and the American strikes on Iran, because Iran was financing, it was the patron of Hamas that has been considered for many years as a proxy of Tehran. So with Iran, with the government in Tehran so weakened by these combined attacks, then, of course, also Hamas is weakened, and the assumption is that it would be more easy to pressure Hamas into a deal now that Iran is in such a difficult situation. And the second point is the situation of Mr. Netanyahu. He has a victory, so to say, now on his record, because most people in Israel supported his campaign, his military campaign against Iran. He came out victorious out of this military endeavor. So he has something to show also to his own electorate. So this might be an easier time for him, so to say, to agree also to a deal which he knows that would put him in a difficult situation vis-a-vis some of his coalition partners.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with Rina Bassist after this short break.
Today's transformation of the Middle East is at the center of global geopolitics. Whether you're an analyst, diplomat, executive, or academic, you need the best reporting and analysis to understand what's really happening on the ground and what it means for the world. Al-Monitor is the award-winning independent leader in Middle East news. From Riyadh to Beirut, Abu Dhabi to Doha, and Baghdad to Tehran, our team of over 100 expert journalists report daily on the top stories driving the regional trends. Download our mobile app and subscribe to Al-Monitor to follow what leaders and decision makers are reading every day. Go to almonitor.com, that's AL-MONITOR.com, and use promo code POD25, POD25 for a discount.
Okay, we're back. Rina, you alluded to this earlier. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir is reportedly seeking to work with Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich to thwart a deal with Hamas, though Smotrich has denied this, according to the reports. What effect do you think an agreement on ending the war would have on the coalition?
Well, first of all, we have to explain that any agreement with Hamas would need the approval of the government. Now, in the government, even if Mr. Ben-Gvir and Mr. Smotrich will vote against that, the Prime Minister should have a majority. So he should be able, even if these two ministers, together with two or three other ministers from their own parties, would try to constitute a bloc to foil an agreement, normally they won't be able to do that. The problem comes after. Let's say that the government has approved the agreement. The parties of Mr. Ben-Gvir and Mr. Smotrich, they are threatening with a non-confidence vote in the Knesset, in the Israeli parliament. Mr. Netanyahu has a majority of 64 Knesset members out of 120. These two ministers together, they have 13 Knesset members. So hypothetically speaking, they have the possibility of toppling the Netanyahu government. Now, the head of the opposition, Yair Lapid, said this morning after the reports about these two ministers trying to block any potential agreement, he said, and this is something he had said in the past, but he reiterated it this morning, that if ever these 13 Knesset members vote against the government of Prime Minister Netanyahu trying to topple it, his 23 Knesset members will support the government Netanyahu, preventing from it to fall, because for him the agreement is more important than the attempts to topple this right-wing government. So we are in a delicate situation, and Mr. Netanyahu will have to make a decision. Will he go with a deal that could risk a very problematic political situation for him, as the far right will withdraw its support of his government? Or would he cave in to the pressure of these two ministers? In the past few days, Mr. Netanyahu has been testing a little bit the water. He visited certain markets, which is a sign in Israel that maybe an election campaign is looming. As we said before, he's very popular after the Iranian strike. But of course, I think everybody in Israel agrees there won't be any new elections before all the 50 hostages are back home.
Rina, thanks a lot for your time, and we look forward to more of your reporting.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Al Monitor Brief. Be sure to follow Al Monitor for more on the stories impacting the Middle East. Until next time, I'm Adam Lucente.